This is a session which name is Innovating for the Future. And we have some really interesting speakers here today. And we also have the honor to give out a prize. And I won't tell you much about the prize yet, but you will learn more about it later. So I think we start right away. And we are so lucky to open this session with Executive Director of the Division of Innovation at the Norwegian Research Council of Norway. And Kjersti Fahlvik, she has experience both from the business life, from university, and now from research and innovation. And this is not only learned in the Norwegian field, she's always also worked abroad, especially in the United States. So welcome, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot for the invitation and for the introduction. I'm working at the Research Council of Norway, and we're here today, and we've not been often on this stage, but it's a pleasure for me to try, from my perspective, to expose you to some of the thinking we have at the Council. There are especially two factors I would like to link to the heading of this session, Innovating for the Future, and that is science and technology and talent. For those of you not very familiar with the Norwegian research and innovation system, I just show you this picture. And here you can see that the Research Council is placed in a dialogue bridge between the ministries, 16 of them funding research and innovation activities in Norway, and those who are actually doing the research and innovation activities, being the universities, the institutes, the hospital sectors, and of course the business sector. The Research Council has a budget of about 7 billion NOK yearly, and that accounts for about a third of the total public money being funded or being used for research in Norway. The biggest sector when it comes to investments in research in Norway is actually the business sector. Be about 450 people working at the Research Council, and what we do is to give advice to the government on what to give priority to, how much to fund, where to put the money, and also what kind of international collaboration we should go into. We also use a lot of resources to actually handle this 7 billion billion NOK. And a third role we have is to build partnership and alliances with all the players on this ground. The Norwegian Research Council is a very unique organization compared to a research funding organization in other countries, because we cover all fields, all science fields, and from basic science up to innovation. And how do we operate? Well, there is a white paper, a stortingsmelding, as was said here in the earlier session, on research policy. And there is a new one that came out this spring, and that will be debated at Storting later in June. And what you can see here is actually the goals the government has set up for research in Norway. As in very many other countries, science and technology is now used to address challenges, grand challenges, and also the challenges of the welfare state. Science and technology is also used to address the general innovation challenge and the challenge of growth in the business sector. So money will be put into a research program for global challenges, health and public services, and industrial development. And this will be done by using universities, institutes, colleges, and businesses. And our job is to make sure that the research has high enough quality, and that the right researchers is getting the money, and that the researchers are really into through international collaboration, because international collaboration is the name of the game when it comes to science. Another new thing in science policy is that the politicians And we as taxpayers, I guess, are now much more focused on the outcome of the research. What is actually coming out of this? What kind of results do we see from the science side, and how can we use science? Another way in looking upon the goals for the science is this one. We need to turn challenges to opportunities. We need to enter a sustainable path. We need to look beyond national priority frameworks. We need to seek multilateral efforts. And time is of essence, talent is of essence, and knowledge is of essence. And what has been happening during the last years when crises are hitting us, like the climate crisis, energy crisis, financial crisis when it comes to health and poverty, is that politicians have invested more in science. People and politicians trust science and have expectations to science. This is also meaning that the scientists and the universities and all the other stakeholders in the science community really need to take part in what's going on in the society and show a responsible mode and be responsive to the needs of the society. So a few words about the other area I want to talk about, the talents. We really need young talents to science and technology, but how could we get them? And do they find higher education attractive? Do they find scientific careers attractive? And if so, what kind of subjects do they want to study? What would they like to work with? And so on and so on. I want to show you some data from a colleague of mine, Camilla Skreiner. She did a PhD work and took part in a big international study where they interviewed teenagers, being 15 years old, on what kind of education and what kind of job they would like to have. The study is called the ROSE study. And this slide shows you that the higher the GDP of a country is, the less chance is that a 15-year-old boy or girl want to study and be a scientist. The red dots here are girls, and the blue ones are boys. So science and technology don't seem to have much appeal to youngsters in rich countries. But when the question was phrased in a different way, they got a different answer. That was totally independent of GDP and also less dependent upon sex. What kind of work would you like to have? Then the 15-year-old girls and boys said, well, we would like to work with something that is meaningful, something that pay back to the society in one way or the other. So what we have to do at the Research Council and what the colleges have to do and the universities have to do is really to decode and sell their education path and the courses in a different way, because math and chemistry might not have appeal, but being part of the solving the climate problems or the health problems really has appeal to youngsters. There is another perspective also, and that is the gender perspective. Now, in Norway, 50% of those taking a PhD actually women. That has been really a milestone to reach. But when you look into the academic institutions, most of the professors that teach the youngsters are still men. In technology, only one of 5 professors is a woman. And the professors are getting older. Now, about 40% of the professors are above 60 years old, and these are the ones who are going to catch the young talents and give them inspiration to tackle the big challenges we face. There are some gender biases in science, and this is from a new publication who was published in the States, showing that when young people are applying for a science job, men are looked upon to have more competence, are giving better salary, and are followed much better up by the professors. So in the academic world, there is a gender bias that we really need to tackle. So these grand challenges, the globalization, the emerging economies, these factors are challenging us a lot, but they also expose us to a great lot of nice opportunities. And from the Research Council side, we're quite sure that it's knowledge and talent that can trump everything here. We need to develop talent and knowledge, we need to access talent and knowledge, and we need the abilities to use talent and knowledge. Science and technology is not an exclusive mission. It really needs the best. It needs the best talents, and science and technology is a human activity that can have fruitful results for individuals, for society, and businesses. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kjersti, and thank you so much for reminding us that if we need to do something meaningfully, we need to get into science and your part of the word,